Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby. And tonight we have with us Anthomy Jones. He's a historical timeline forensic investigator, and he also wrote the documentary Evil Law. And we're going to find out a little bit more about Anthomy. All righty then. Welcome to the show, Anthomy. How are you this evening?
Well, you kind of tricked me out a little bit here. You know, the first chords of this, the instrumental of your song, I thought you were going to play, Nazi Germany's Deutschland Evil Alles. I mean, then I saw it. Well, don't laugh because that's going to be the theme song here pretty soon. Well, in the near future, we'll have something similar. And the goose step will soon be the new step in America. It's coming. I document it.
Yes, I know. There's nothing you can tell me that doesn't shock me. I've been through every scenario, every guest, and I pretty much am a walking computer about tyranny.
Well, Badbaby, I think I'm the one. I'm going to pop your cuckoo, and I'm going to freak you out. You met your match.
You did tell me quite a few things already that I was not aware of.
Well, you're going to be made aware of a lot of stuff. It's going to be afraid. Be very afraid.
Well, I got my big girl booties on, and I'll pull my bootstraps up, and we'll see if we can handle it. Why don't you tell us a little bit, for those who aren't familiar with who you are, Anthomy, tell us a little bit about what you have been doing and how you got involved in this.
Well, I'm retired, and about 5 years ago, I ran into somewhat of a financial windfall. So I said, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Am I going to play golf, watch Jerry Springer show? Am I going to fish? What am I going to do? And there were two favorite TV shows that I just loved. I loved them to death. One was, it's back in the 70s. It's called In Search of by Leonard Nimoy, where he would just go around the world looking for strange and weird stuff. You ever seen that? A lot of people have. And then one was called The World of Arthur C. Clarke. Same thing. He would just go around, anything weird, anything strange, anything bizarre, he would just show up and try to figure out what's going on, why is this happening. And I figured, well, that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to do something like this. So I set my sights on forbidden knowledge, things I'm not supposed to know. And it is out there, but unfortunately you have to go after it. It's not going to come to you. And the powers that be and the news media are not going to report it. You have to hunt it down, track it down, analyze it, study it, or put this way. Knowledge is a prey. I became a knowledge predator. How's that sound?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I became. I just look down every rabbit hole I can find, and I don't like what I see.
Well, okay, so that's how I became a knowledge predator. Well, the first thing on my agenda was Notre Dame. How did Notre Dame foretell the future? I mean, generally when you say Notre Dame, people kind of weird out, conspiracy theories, in league with the devil. The voices from the sky said this is going to happen 100 years from now. Well, it took me about a year to crack Notre Dame. I even became a part of their society because they were impressed with my findings. Here's how Notre Dame predicted the future, and this is how I'm going to predict the future, what's coming for all Americans, using the Notre Dame technique. All right, give me a drum roll, somebody here. Here's how Notre Dame predicted the future. You have to understand that Notre Dame was in a crucial point in humanity's history where books had first come out, meaning Notre Dame could sit down and actually read world history. He could read back 400,000 or 500,000 years of history. And what he saw was that, well, what happened in, we'll just say, the first century A.D. He studied the whole century A.D. Okay, cool. Then he looked at the second century A.D. Well, didn't all this pretty much happen in the first century A.D.? Well, let me go to century 3, third century A.D. Well, this is amazing. I mean, I'm seeing basically the same thing happened in century 1, happened in century 2, and it's happened in century 3. Well, I wonder if this will happen in century 4, and Shazam. I'm sure you've heard the saying, there's nothing new under the sun, that those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it, because history is already repeating itself. So theoretically, he says, well, if everything's happened, if everything basically has happened in the last 5 centuries, same plots, same wars, same, this guy's fighting this guy, and this king is going after this king, and this army's doing this. And he says, well, I think I can predict that if it all happens, if it keeps happening, if this pattern keeps happening century in, century out, good chance it's going to happen in the next century. So his predictions are based on what he saw in the past, called reoccurring timelines. So that's what a forensic historical timeline investigator is. That's what I do. I will take a current subject. Oh, how about Megan's Law, the sex offender registry, government registries? So I wonder if something like this has happened before, and I'll start backtracking. I've got a supercomputer. I can sit here and I can go back 10,000 years with this historical supercomputer. Put in the keywords and just start going back. And what I'll do is I'll find where something happened in the past that's happening now. Then when I can find the same hookup, link up, line up, then I'll study it. Well, okay, so this happened in this century or this year, and I'll watch it, follow it, study, and see what the outcome is and what happened. Well, believe it or not, by looking to the past, you can predict the future because the same thing happens all the time. Probably the downfall of Americans will be, and it's fixing to bite us in the rear end here, bad baby, which I'll be exposing here. The problem with Americans, they don't realize that history runs in circles. It's always repeating itself. And Americans look at history as a ladder going to the future, like we're going into the future. We're not going into the future. It's always running in parallels.
Well, I don't know how we have a future as much as in debt this country is, and I do feel we're going to have an economic collapse.
All you have to do is study the Great Depression, see what happened back then.
Exactly.
And you have this, or study 1930s Germany, Nazi Germany, where it took a wheelbarrow of Deutsche-Marks to buy a loaf of bread.
Well, I think a lot of it was planned, too, to bring, they have something to bring our country to its knees.
You are so correct. So what I'm going to be doing here, first of all, I'm going to make a statement. A lot of people are going to weird out and freak out when I make this statement. And then, now that you know how I'm coming at the documentation for the statement, then we'll take it from there. Okay, my statement is, I will be presenting facts and documentations, not conspiracy theories. I don't deal in conspiracy theories. I only deal in facts, documented facts, past or future or current. That in the very near future, and more in the show, I'll give dates. I'll give times and dates when this will happen, but not now. That in the very near future, all Americans are going to be on a government registry database. Let me explain. You will be a registered citizen. Let me break this down. Let's analyze this and slice it and dice it and cut it up. In a constitutional democracy, whether it be any other country, whether it be Germany, England, France, Italy, or America, the reason for a constitution is protection of citizens from civil, private, and government abuse. Meaning if any one of these three entities violates any of your constitutional rights, well, then you can sue them, you can put them in jail, you can have them, cease to desist, or you can fine them, or you can win a lawsuit against them, meaning you are protected by constitutional rights. When you are a government registered citizen, what has happened is you, in a constitutional democracy, you have been taken out of a constitutionally protected zone and placed in a government registered zone with government rules and regulations. Now, people might weird out, well, how can this happen in America? Well, it's already happening in America. You have close to 800 people, Americans, that are in government registered zones or government registered citizens. These numbers, this represents a state of like Montana, Alaska, or Wyoming. When you're in a government registered zone or a government registered citizen, okay, well, you can't vote. You have to get permission where you work, where you live, where you can travel, who you can see, basically what you can watch on TV, internet. I mean, you're even like something stupid as going to the library or McDonald's.
Hey, you're talking Agenda 21.
No, I'm talking the sex offender registry. There are almost 800 people on the sex offender registry that are government-registered citizens. Now I know I'm gonna step up to the plate and say I do not like sex offenders, but let me tell you what's going on. The bulk of the people on the sex offender registry are not there for molesting children or even being predatory child molesters. The bulk of the people on the sex offender registry now, which I can document, gladly send the links, are on there for, you ready for this? Public urination, streaking, mooning, indecent exposure in public while being drunk, sexting. You know what sexting is, Badbaby?
Yeah, it's where people
if I had a cell phone, I was worried about you.
And put it on
I was worried about you doing that to me. I'm like, what am I going to do if Badbaby starts telling me pictures of herself? I'm only kidding. Okay, you know what it is.
Yeah, I know what it is.
All right, peeping Tom, teen sex, okay? You realize that if you're 18 and you do the wild thing with a girl under 18, this is called child rape, okay? Romeo and Juliet romances, internet crimes, looking at going to wrong websites, okay? What's happening? The sex offender industry it's now 3 tiers. Tier 1 for stupid and ridiculous stuff. Okay, Tier 2. At one time we had statutory rape in this country. If there's no more statutory rape, you just get on the registry. And then you have the Tier 3, which is supposedly for the real dangerous child molesters. But this is a real small, minute minority of this registry. And there is a 4th registry coming, which would involve having to take some kind of weird polygraph test. It's called a plethysmography test. I can't even pronounce it. Where they hook a sensor up to your penis if you're a male, stick a sensor up your vagina if you're female, or you can request it up in your anus. And they're going to show you weird pictures. And if the needle goes, you're all hooked, you're on a polygraph test. If the needle goes the wrong way, then you could end up being a latent sex offender. You haven't even touched anybody.
Yeah, that's under that new law that they're bringing up that you might commit a crime.
You might commit a crime.
Yeah, they made a movie about that.
Yeah, this is being done in a lot of states now. A lot of states are, let's say you're a teacher or you work for daycare, anything to do with children, it starts off with that and then it's going to morph out of control. So when you hear the word sex offender, I'm asking everybody to find out what's this guy on this for. Because if they'd had these laws around when I was a young man, I would have been on it. I mean, I mooned, I streaked. I mean, in public indecent exposure. I mean, when I was 18, I was 19, I was a real Romeo. If they'd had cell phones around, I probably would have been sexting. I mean, and my dad would have been a sex offender. He was 19, my mom was 15. My grandfather would have been a sex offender. He was 21. My grandmother was 16. I mean, or put this way, I was at Woodstock. 90% of the people at Woodstock would become sex offenders if they'd had these laws around. So I'm just trying to...
They probably all get a sex offender stamp on the way in.
Well, we're talking 1969 they didn't have, because at Woodstock, I'm going to tell you right now, there was no bathrooms out there.
Oh,
okay?
I know.
Everybody was doing the wild thing. Everybody's running around naked. I mean, this gets you on the sex offender register now. So what I'm trying to bring your attention is that you don't have to molest a child or even touch anybody now to get on the sex offender registry. And pretty soon, just having the wrong kind of thinking pattern can get you on this thing. So this is a registry that's morphed out of control. Now, what has also happened is there are now 10 more registries that have spawned off of the sex offender registry. I'll just give you a rundown. The sex offenders kind of become a template, and we're going to get more into this template here, how government registries can take down a constitutional democracy. They have in the past, as we'll be getting into this. Very scary. America's opened up a Pandora's box to an evil past law by this passage of this sex offender registry. Okay, sex offender starts off in 1994. You got to be a real dangerous, sicko child molester to get on this thing. I'm in total agreement with this. If I'd have been the president, I'd said, no, we're not going to have this. We're just going to castrate these people, throw them in prison, throw the keys away, and that's it. We're done with them. But no, they didn't do that. They let them out of prison and said, well, we're going to put you on a registry so people know where you're at. Okay. What has happened, as you can see, from 1994 up till now, it just morphed. It just morphed. They started adding. So to pretty soon, Bad Baby. I hope this is a joke. I hope I'm making stuff. But pretty soon, a man will be able to be arrested for possession of rapist tools, and maybe one day you might be arrested for intent to distribute porno to minors. That's what's next. The way they keep adding these laws that can get you on the sex offender registry.
Well, I
anyway,
know that's mooning someone is a big thing for the.
That'll get you on it. But I'm just saying the way it's going here. Pretty soon, just being in possession of a penis or a vagina, you're subject to be on the sex offender registry.
It makes me wonder when you say that about how they're monitoring people's private parts, because a lot of the targeted individuals get targeted in their sexual organs. They get radiated, and I think that it has to do with somehow what you're talking about. They were the experiment to see how it works.
Yes. Well, what I'm going to be doing is I have a documentary film. It runs 2.5 hours. It's www.evillaw.tk. What I'm documenting is that Megan's Law is an evil law. Okay, so we start off with the sex offender registry. Now, let me tell you what's morphed off of it. Number one, we now have a drug dealers registry. Well, everybody doesn't like drug dealers, but it's following the same path as the sex offenders registry. Technically, if you gave one of your friends prescription pills, you could be on this drug dealers registry, or pot, or stuff that has nothing to do with drugs, like heroin, meth, crank, cocaine. Stuff. They start off with that. Now it's stupid stuff. Can get on it. The second one is drug user. Okay, you get caught with pot, you're a notorious drug user. They can put you on it now. You can be on this registry. Number 3, arsonist. Okay, well, once again, arson. We're all afraid of arsonists. Starts off with the really hardcore arsonist. Now you can get put on it for throwing a lit cigarette out of a car. You didn't put your campfire out right. Or I got a case in the documentary film where a guy took the batteries out of his smoke detector alarm in a hotel room for his cell phone, and he got put on it. Okay, then we've got kidnappers. Well, it starts off with the bad guy. They start off with the real dangerous bad guy that everybody hates and despises, and then when nobody's looking, then they start expanding who can be on it. Kidnappers, child custody disputes. Once again, stupid, crazy stuff. Now, the state of Tennessee has created an animal cruelty registry. Okay, same thing. Once again, I love animals. I'm an animal lover. I've never hurt an animal, and I would physically get in somebody's way hurting an animal. But this is going to morph out of control. Utah passed the Financial Fraud Act. It's a registry. Okay, this was for the Bernie Madoffs, the guys who jerk people off. Give me your money and I'll make you a billionaire and a zillionaire and a millionaire. Well, I'm all for that. But looking at this thing here, where this financial fraud registry is headed, pretty soon if you got bad credit, you wrote a bad check, or let's say you had a car repossessed, you're going to be on this. You're going to be on this registry. All right, New York State just passed a terrorist registry. Well, this is wide open. Technically, Bad Baby, you could be declared a terrorist for giving out terrorist information or non-stream, non-political information the powers that be don't like. So as you can see, we've got a trail here, a trail of registries that started off with the sex offender registry for the really dangerous sickos, and then it's morphed and morphed and morphed and morphed, and Ohio has passed another registry, DWI. Notorious DWI. Well, yeah. I don't know if there's a DWI drunk driver in my neighborhood, but it's going to do the same thing. It's already in court. They're trying to put people on it for buzz driving. Maybe you're not drunk, you're not legally drunk, but you got to take it for maybe being half the limit. Well, that'll get you on it. So understand, all these people that are on these new registries that didn't exist 20 years ago. They've been taken out of the constitutionally protected zone. They're now in a government registry zone. They're now on public profile websites. What my movie documentary film documents is that one day all Americans are going to be on government registries, looking at the trajectory and timeline and track line of how these registries are forming. As it stands now, every politician is trying to figure out how to get their name associated with a registry. There's a senator in Illinois. He's trying to get a murderous registry. You ever murdered somebody? Well, you can get on there. A senator in South Carolina. If you're a wife beater, he's trying to get a wife beater registry. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, pretty soon it's going to be the car thieves registry. Then it's going to be you're burglarized a house. You're going on a registry. If you ever did this, you know, are you following what I'm?
Yeah, they want everybody's name.
They want everybody on a registry.
And tell the listening audience, when you get on the registry, what they can do, like kick your door in and tell you where to live. Tell us a little bit about what they can do to you once you get on a list.
Well, you have to understand that, if you know, as it stands, if you're not on a registry, you're in a constitutionally protected zone. You're protected from private, civil, personal, state, city, government, any abuse. Anybody that violates your constitutional rights, you have protection. Okay, once you're put on a government registry or become what is known as a government registered citizen, you lose a lot of your constitutional rights. You now have to, and plus you're giving all kind of government rules and regulations. If you violate them, then you're looking at prison. So let me give you the rundown on what constitutional rights you have lost. The Constitution says you have the right to be secure and safe in your home. Well, Badbaby, what would happen if you had all your personal information on a public profile website? Would you feel safe and secure in your home?
No.
Or let's say you're a Muslim. Or let's say, you know, you're the DWI guy, you know. So that's number one. The Constitution states you have the right to freedom of travel. Well, when you're on a government registry, you have to get permission where you can travel and where you can work. You just can't just get in your car and just drive off and say, well, I'm just going to get out of here and go to this city and start a new life. No, you have to get permission. Okay? You have to get permission. You're restricted where you can go, who you can associate with. All right? Also, you're under a new high-tech. You're going to love this, Badbaby. I think I'm really going to pull somebody's chain with this. I wish I were making this up.
Well, I know you're not making it up.
I'm not making this up. I only deal through documentation. At present, a new high-tech real-time surveillance infrastructure is being developed, tested on sex offenders and these new people in these government registries. Here's how it works. At present, the surveillance infrastructure in this country is called after the fact. Meaning, let's say you go put $50,000 in a bank. Well, you're not going to get arrested on the spot. It takes a couple of days for IRS to know you just put $50,000 cash in a bank. Or let's say that, what else we got? Let's say that you have your electricity bill. Let's say you run up a $10,000 electricity bill. Well, 30 days, they'll know you ran up $10,000, and the sheriff's out there want to know if you're growing marijuana. Or, I don't know, let's say that, anyway, so anything you do now,
it's monitored.
It's monitored, but it's on a database. It's logged and registered on a database, and then somebody has to come and check up on it. The way this new system is going to work, it's called real time. Okay, here's how it works. Here's how a real time surveillance infrastructure works. Okay, number one, okay. Let's say your mail. Okay, a lot of people are not aware that all your mail comes. It's all logged as it's going through the mail system. Let's say you're getting too many letters from Osama bin Laden. Okay, it's going to take a while for somebody to know this, but they'll know this. Okay, or the same thing with your power, or the same thing with your bank. So the way this will work is everything is going to be monitored in real time by an AI, artificial intelligence. The name of this artificial intelligence computer is called ADOLF, ADOLF. It's a $2.8 billion computer built by Computer Science Corporation in San Diego. The government has it, and this is who's going to be looking at you in the future here. Let me just give you a runoff. Okay, a lot of these states are going to barcodes on the windshield. Next time you see a car from Texas, you'll notice you look at the license plate. There's not a tag on, like in Michigan. You got the date. You got 12 of 215. So a cop will look at your car. Oh, this plate's out of date. They're going to be going to these barcodes on the windshield because there are now highway scanners set up. It's set up for the big trucks, but pretty soon all cars will have this. Meaning, as you're driving down the road, Adolf will know where you're going, where you came from, and be able to monitor where you're going.
That's why they want to change the taxation on your plates, I heard, by how many miles you drive instead of a set rate, so that people that drive more are going to pay more.
Yeah, and all the cops, even the Michigan cops have it. They have these license plate scanners, where they can scan your license plates. Then of course you're familiar with facial recognition. So there's all kind of real-time surveillance where somebody will know exactly what you're doing at all times.
Yeah, Walmart just announced that they put up facial recognition cameras.
Facial recognition.
Yes.
But with this new surveillance infrastructure is coming, it's not going to be a human monitoring it. It'll be this AI computer monitoring it. And I'll just do a rundown with you with Adolf. Now understand, people on government registries are already subject to this. So this is not science fiction. This is not fantasy. It's already happening. You see the documentary film. It's in there. So I'm going to do a Badbaby. You and Adolf are going to meet. Okay, I'm Adolf. Okay, you're Badbaby. All right, and you're a government registered citizen now, because you can't do this on people that are in a constitutionally protected zone, because that's invasive privacy. You can sue if you find out about it. You can file lawsuits. But when you're a government registered citizen, you're helpless. So let's do an Adolf Badbaby date here. Okay, 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, Adolf looks at all the death certificates in the country. Okay, well, Badbaby hasn't died. Cool. Badbaby drops down the hospital. Adolf drops the Badbaby in the hospital. Well, his Badbaby died. Okay, Badbaby's not died, not in the hospital. It's going to drop down to the prison system. Is Badbaby incarcerated in prison? Okay, cool. Not dead, not in the hospital, not in any type of incarceration. Then it's going to drop down to a hospital. Are you in a hospital? Okay, cool, not in a hospital. Then it's going to drop down where you live. Understand, as it stands now, everybody has a database address, meaning your address, you are tagged or logged to your address. Meaning I can punch in, if I have one of these government supercomputers, I can punch in anybody's address, this address, so who lives at this house? It's called reverse lookup. Same thing with the phone. Okay, well, Badbaby lives at this house, at this address, still there, hasn't moved. Because understand, if you move, you have to notify the post office, and then, of course, they re-register you with the computers. Okay, Badbaby now lives here. Okay, Badbaby still lives here. This is going to drop down to your bank account. What kind of money is coming and going through Badbaby's account? It's going to drop down to your bank account. What's coming? It's going to drop down to the DMV. What kind of car are you driving? It's going to drop down to your power. What kind of power is coming and going through Badbaby's house? Then it's going to drop down to internet. What are you looking at on the internet? It's going to drop down to your TV. Are you seeing what's going on here?
Yes.
This is called database.
It's done all that already on me. I get followed around by everybody, so I'm sure that scenario happens every day. I'm not real exciting, though. I have to forewarn you.
Okay, so this is
They might be interested with what I look at on the internet.
It's called database analysis. Okay.
Yeah, because I always go down the rabbit hole, and I want to know what the hell's going on.
Well, basically, Badbaby, in the near future, you're going to be a big star on your own TV show called This Is Your Life. And it's going to be watched. I'm probably on a lot of lists that I don't know about. You're on all kinds. Well, we're going to get more. We're going to get more into this here. So you're going to be a big show. You're going to be watched. All the surveillance cameras, the facial recognition,
I know.
Plate scanners. Of course, now we haven't got into the satellite imagery. Basically, you can be watched from space now.
Yes, I know.
Well, anyway, back to our friendly computer.
They can also do crap to your car from these satellites, because they've done it to mine.
And they'll know where you're driving.
They put my back windows down. They put my locks up and down, up and down. That's supposed to scare me or something. And so it's so stupid. It's just they're stupid games, and I we're going to play games again today. But they've done it to other targets too. I've heard other targets say that I was sitting at the light and my locks just started going up and down by themselves. They're doing it with the satellite. They're letting me know they know where I'm at. Yeehaw.
Yeah, well, once you become a government registered citizen, I'm sure they'll figure out some type of special registry for you. I'm sure that there's somebody working on it right now. Anyway, let me just kind of backtrack on Adolf.
Well, we're patriots. We fight for our freedom and we fight for the Constitution. And you look at a lot of these videos where these people are being harassed. I just looked at one the other day where when the cop got out and he was trying to arrest this guy, the guy was in his driveway. He was filming taking his boat out. And this cop pulled up, and he was like, what's he want? And of course, he turned his camera towards him. Well, the cop got out and started reaching for his handcuffs and telling him, don't move, don't move. And the guy kept saying, hey, I haven't done anything. You stay there. Well, don't come near me. I haven't done anything. You know what the cop said to him? What are you, some kind of a constitutionalist?
Yes. Well, let me highly recommend you don't go to New York State because they now have a terrorist registry. And if you went there, you have to understand that, George Washington, the founder of our country, is now considered now as a terrorist general. They call him the terrorist general. And the founding fathers would be terrorists. So, and being a patriot is a terrorist. So you might, to stay out of Washington
Revere would have been one because he put the signal out.
So that's where it's heading now. So stay out of New York State.
Unfortunately, when I first started trying to speak out for our rights, I was hoping that I would wake our country up or wake people up and save our country for our children, but it's gone too far. It's gone way past that.
Well, let me tell you, let's backtrack on Adolf here again. So basically, Adolf's going to run down all your databases. You're on about 250 of them. I mean, even the mail. All your mail coming and going is on a computer. I mean, everything you do is now on a computer database. It's just logged as a data file. Okay, Adolf will be able to go into these files and look at them, and we'll come up with, you ever heard of a FICO score?
No.
It's basically, if you got a certain score, then that determines your credit. So Adolf will come up with a FICO score that what constitute a prescribed American lifestyle. I don't know who's going to set the bar, set the limits, but there'll be a FICO score on your life. Let's say Adolf came up on your job, and okay, let's see, Badbaby's working for Taco Bell. Okay, drops down to D&B and says, okay, Badbaby's driving a brand new Corvette. Drops down to your credit. Well, there's no credit. Hey, how did Badbaby get this car? What's going on here? See what I mean?
Yeah.
Or let's say Adolf drops down your address. It says, well, Badbaby doesn't have an address. It's not living anywhere. Not showing living anywhere. Adolf might say, well, maybe she's hiding in the woods. She's escaped on the lam. Somebody needs to talk to her. So that's what will happen. They'll come up with a FICO score, and you have the guys knocking on your door wanting to know we need to look at your house because you ran up a $10,000 electricity bill this month, or how did this car get paid for, or who are these letters you're getting from the Mideast? I mean, who's this? Who is this? What's this? What internet site you went to? Because it says now you go to a wrong website now.
Okay,
right now
we're having an audio problem, Anthony. Are you on a cell phone?
I'm on a landline. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, as it stands now, if you go on a wrong website, on a wrong website now, within 24 hours, somebody's knocking on your door. Okay. If nobody doesn't believe this, then go to a child porn website and see how fast you're arrested. You're carted to jail. So George Orwell called it the thought police. So the thought police are alive and well here. So this infrastructure is, like I say, is being tested on government-registered citizens because they couldn't do this on the general public because it'd be lawsuit city time. So let me break down this real-time surveillance infrastructure. I'm just put this in a format you can understand. Badbaby, would you allow somebody to build a big tower in the back of your yard with binoculars to watch you all the time?
No, I pretty much got that anyway.
Would you allow somebody to follow you in a car everywhere you go, write down everything you buy, everything you see? I mean, would you allow that to happen?
I wouldn't, but they do it anyways without.
Would you allow people to sit on your couch and observe you and watch you and listen to your telephone calls?
No, they do that anyways.
So, okay.
Without my permission.
So basically, this is what this type of surveillance is coming. It's really nothing new. This is this was done in Nazi Germany. It's called the Gestapo. I mean, when they put a 24/7 watch on you, basically from the time you open your eyes to the time you close them, and everything in between was being documented, written down, and photographed. This is really nothing new here. And this is what is coming. Now, what I'm seeing here is most Americans, well, when you talk about invasion of their privacy, it's kind of, well, as long as I don't see it, as long as I don't know it, well, I don't care.
You know, you described, everything that you described is exactly what targeted individuals go through.
Well,
and I try to explain to targets when they think they're going to go to their congressman or the cops or someone in authority and get help, which we've tried for 20 years, 30 years, they'll find out that the reason they get nowhere is because they were the experiment. We were the experiment for this technology that you're talking about, so that they know how to use it on people when they do it to everybody.
Okay. So anytime you try to complain or cause a fuss, you get on a stupid list. Now they're really watching you here. Okay. Anyway, so
all it does is get you on another list.
Okay. Well, let me stand people back. Let's start standing back and seeing bigger pictures here. Okay. So we've established that what is happening in America is that the population is slowly morphing through slow motion creep function. What I'm seeing is that the system or powers that be do not work. They don't do anything fast or quick. Everything is through slow motion. Slow motion, out of sight, out of mind, and of course they keep it out of the press. Most Americans are not aware that, anytime you say the sex offender registry, a dangerous predatory child molester is coming for my child. They don't realize this is a very small, minute percentage of the sex offenders on the registry, and that the bulk of them, are not dangerous, going to come after your child. People, okay? A lot of the stuff is stupid, but they don't know that, and that has basically morphed to the point where now, you can. It's at the point now where the polygraph test is coming, where you could be a latent sex offender. Then all these other registries are coming. Okay, so basically, when Congress passed, or America allowed the passage of Megan's Law, which was the sex offender registry, they opened up a Pandora's box. Now, we're going to look more at this Pandora's box that's been opened. Okay. Well, what is happening? There's something called the splitting of the population. Let's talk about the splitting of the population. Who invented this? How did this start? The splitting of the population, this is a template for taking down a democratic, constitutionally democratic society. Splitting the population. The way it works is you take the real bad guys, the people that the spies, you demonize them, and you tell the people, I have to protect you from these people. They must be put in a government registry for your protection. And people say, yeah, you're right, we must be protected. It's always about protecting the children and protecting us. Well, let me tell you who perfected this. The name Adolf Hitler ring a bell here? Okay, I'm only joking. In 1933, a lot of people are not aware of this. Once again, the film documents this. In 1933, Germany was a democratic, constitutionally democratic country, and Hitler was elected to be prime minister. Okay, let me back. Elected in 4 years, his office would have been up, and he would have had to run for re-election. So history documents that Hitler had no plans for running for re-election 4 years from now. He had to figure out how to take the democratic constitution down, which restrained him from doing what he wanted to do. Meaning he could be impeached, or he could be voted out, or he could be arrested under a democratic constitutionally protected system. So what he devised is called splitting the population. The first thing he did, he started demonizing the Jews. We're all in danger from the Jews. He started off, the bankers, the Bernie Madoff type. People agreed, yeah, Bernie Madoffs. Well, we need to put the Bernie Madoffs, we need to put these corrupt banksters in a government registered zone to protect the people. So they did that. And then when he wasn't looking, then pretty soon all Jews were put in the government registry zone. Understand, once the Jews went in the Nazi government registration zone and taken out of the constitutionally protected zone, now Hitler had control of a group of the population. He could do anything he wanted with them. Okay. Then it started splitting. Then pretty soon, guess what? Then they started putting the Catholics in the government registration zone. Then the trade unionists. Then the Jehovah's Witnesses. Then the Catholics. Okay. Then the priests. then the preachers, then the holy men. Then the people that are what they call homeopathic doctors. I mean, pretty soon, half the population in Germany was now in a government registered control zone, out of the Constitution. Well, within 8 years, over 50% of the Germans, all Germans are in this government. Again, the homosexuals, the men go on and on. We're put in this government registry control zone. They're now taken out of the population, out of the voting population, and then pretty soon, the light goes on to most Germans that, hey, if I don't toe the line, I could be put in one of these government registry zones. And a pretty word for putting people, they didn't say we put you in prison, we put you in a concentration camp. Put you in a concentration camp. We try anything called a people's court, put you in a concentration camp. People's court was set up not for stealing cars or raping somebody or robbery or writing a bad check. It was strictly for if you violated one of your government registry rules and regulations. They couldn't take it to the legal system because they couldn't take you in front of a judge and say, well, this guy, he failed to register where he's living or where he's working, or he's not supposed to go and he went there. Well, there's nothing on the books for that. So that's why they have a people's court. And on the people's court, you couldn't make bond, you couldn't request a jury trial, and if convicted, you couldn't appeal it. And they use the glorified word prison. They call it no. You're not being sent to prison, bad baby. You're being sent to a concentration camp. Well, what's the big difference here? Now let's fast forward to 2015 here in America. If you're a government registered citizen in a government registry zone, and you violate any of your government rules and regulations, guess what? You get taken to court, to an Americanized version of people's court. This is a court set up to prosecute and try people who have violated their government registry rules and regulations. And when you go to this court, when you're arrested and go in front of this court, you can't make bond, you can't request a jury, you can't request an appeal, you can't appeal the case. You're immediately sent to a, let's see if you got your thing. Is it a concentration camp or a prison? Which one are you sent to?
Which one? What?
If a judge orders you I'm just trying to use a parallel.
You get the option of a concentration camp or prison?
Yeah. What is it? What's there between the two?
Well, they're both the same. You're locked.
Yeah, they're both the same. Okay. You just want a cigar. So what I'm trying to show is the parallel between Nazi Germany and America. The two government registry systems. So we have basically the same thing happening here. You have the Nazi People's Court concentration. We have the American People's Court, but they don't use concentration camp. They use prison. Okay. Now, a lot of people are now really fearful and aware of this high-tech surveillance that's kind of popped up on the horizon out of nowhere. Well, surveillance of a population didn't start in America. This is not an American invention. It didn't start in Silicon Valley. It started in Nazi Germany in 1933. In 1933, Hitler, and once again, this is documented in the film, Hitler contracted with IBM. I'm sure everybody knows about IBM. Believe it or not, IBM had computers back in the 30s. They worked off of something called a punch card. Okay. And Hitler's talking to the head of IBM and saying, I want to put everybody in Germany on a computer-type database, so I know what everybody's doing. And the IBM guy said, well, yeah, we can do this. What you have to do, though, you can't use your name as a database or as a file name. You have to use a number. And Hitler snapped his fingers. Yeah, I've just signed the German Social Insurance Number Act, where Germans, when they retire, will be able to draw their social security number, but they got to have a number, and they put money into it. Hitler then had the Gestapo go to every German in Germany with a form saying, "Hi, your name is Helmut? Okay, Helmut. Married, address, where do you work? What's your occupation? Oh, by the way, what's your religion? Okay, and what's your political party? And what about this?" And everything was compiled on this person, and then it was put on a punch card and then entered in the Nazi computer. It was called the Die Hamag for deductor. So Hitler could then go to the Die Hamag, the deductor, deductor, and say, well, how many Jews are in Germany? And it would just spit them out. Boom, 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 boom. It would spit out the cards. And it's documented where Hitler put all this in a big box, give the scalpel, and say, round them up. They knew where they were at.
Yeah.
And during the war, this is how they were able to round up all the Japanese for internment camps or concentration camps. They found them through their Social Security number. And a lot of people are not aware is that when you see, these Holocaust survivors, you ever notice they've got this number tattooed on their arm? That is their German social insurance number, or AKA Social Security number. Now here in America, you don't have your Social Security number tattooed on your arm, but it is tattooed on your DNA and on your ID. Basically, you're now a Social Security number. I mean, let's face it, you can't do anything without showing a Social Security number. You can't get a fishing license, you can't get a job. Of course, you can't get a job, you can't move anywhere, anything. And bank accounts, driver's license, register your car. I mean, we could spend 2 hours on this show playing, what's my number? I mean, what can I do without having to show a Social Security number? There's very few things you can do now. I can't think of anything without having to show a Social Security number. The reason being is all this information is then logged on a supercomputer. So like I say, surveillance of the population starts in Nazi Germany with these crude computers using punch-card technology, and they could also track and monitor your whereabouts through this computer. I mean, they didn't go to a screen. They didn't have a keyboard. They had a keyboard, but what they would do is they would type in, let's just say Badbaby. Okay, where is Badbaby? And then it would, like a punch card would come out with all information. Okay, Badbaby's here. Badbaby's working there, and Badbaby's doing this, and Badbaby's doing that, and this is her profile. Same thing, just a little primitive, but it's the same principle. Who are you? Where are you? What are you doing? Where can we find you? And, of course, these things are always updated. They're always upgraded. So let me ask you a question, Badbaby. If somebody knocked on your door with a form saying, okay, well, I need your full name, your date of birth, I need all your driver's license number, I need your Social Security number, I need where you live, where you work, where do you go to school, what would you say? I mean, if somebody tried to get that.
Well, I wouldn't answer the door.
Well, no, and you'd probably put a shotgun in their face here.
Second of all, they'd have a hard time getting to my door because I have a fenced property with a locked gate and no trespassing sign.
Well, this happens. I think it happens every 10 years. It's called the census.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've seen the census lady with her.
Yeah.
It wasn't too long ago. She was sitting on the edge of this road over here, and they have scanners, and they scan your front door is what they do. And they were putting longitude and latitude in.
So as it stands now, I mean everything about you. If I was sitting in Washington D.C., let's say I'm in Washington D.C. and I would go, well, who is Badbaby? Let me. I mean, I could type in some numbers and then bam, we could play This Is Your Life. I mean, I could backtrack you to how fast you learned your ABCs in school. Were you really a bad baby? Did you ever get a ticket? Did you get in fights? What did you do? I mean, like I say, we could play This Is Your Life. Remember that an old TV show called This Is Your Life?
Yeah, I remember that.
This
and
is your
Queen
life.
For a Day.
Could play This Is Your Life on a computer screen, and pretty soon they're going to.
They do that with people already. That they do it with everybody, but the public they aren't aware that this is going on.
So what is happening in America? Let me more of the documentation, the bigger picture. What is happening in America is, okay, we now have a splitting of the population. Okay, a percentage of the population is slowly expanding and being taken out of a constitutionally protected zone and placed in a government registry zone. Okay, slowly expanding. Understand in 1994 it started off with one person. Now it's up to 800,000 people. I have a thing called a timeline trajectory where the numbers show that by the year 2035, 1/3 of the American people are going to be government registered citizens. Might not be for the sex offender. It'll be for all these government registries that are coming down the line. And as they're expanding, I mean, the documentation says this. I'm not saying this. I'm not predicting this. I'm not saying, well, this is going to happen or it might happen. The documentation says this is going to happen. Okay, by 2035, we're going to reach what is known as a critical point. Same thing happened in 1930s Germany when you had so many people on the Nazi government control zone. But when you get 1/3 of the population, then it's that is a government registered citizen, then it's going to reach a thing called critical mass, and that by the year 2050, hopefully you and I will still be around. Non-government registered citizens will be the minority in America, and government registered citizens will be the majority. This is where it's headed. It can all be backtracked to 1994, the Jacob Wetling Act, which created the sex offender registry. That's how it can be backtracked. And then if you go out 100 years, well, I'm at 2050, where they're a minority. What'll probably happen then? When non-registered, when the minority of Americans are non-registered, government-registered citizens, then we'll probably get into a class. They'll probably pick and choose, well, who's going to be on a registry and who's not. It's kind of like royalty. We'll have royalty. Then everybody's going to be taken out of a constitutionally protected zone, and we're going to have basically tyranny, a dictatorship. I mean, when you take away somebody's constitutional rights and place them under a 24/7 surveillance infrastructure, what do we have? I'm feeling like a dummy. Bad baby. What do we have when an American loses all their constitutional rights? They're now placed in a government control zone with rules and regulations they have to follow. If they don't follow them, then they go to an Americanized version of a people's court where they can't make bond, they can't they can't request a jury, they can't appeal the court, and they go to a prison. What do we have here? What do we have?
Enslavement is what you have. You don't have freedom, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, I thought maybe I was losing it here.
No. And the thing is, the American people are so naive. They just have this thought in their head, oh, that can't happen in America, Well, and they aren't paying attention to the executive orders that are being passed. And one of them is that they can arrest you now and hold you forever, and you do not have the right to an attorney, and whether you're found guilty or not, And everyone's like, oh, they can't do that. Oh, yeah, they can. They passed that law.
I have to give a special warning, maybe to you, maybe to some people in your audience here. They're actually, and once again, I sometimes, I've been on other radio shows, people call me up, well, you're in drugs, you're making this up. And, of course, I deal through documentation, I give links. They are actually backtracking marriage certificates. They're going back to 1950s and actually arresting men who married underage girls and placing them on the sex offender registry. So, guys, if you married an underage girl, heads up. And this happens all the time here. It's still...
they're just looking for a reason to get somebody for something.
No, they want this government registry to expand.
What happens with the, what's it called? Statute of limitation.
Well, there is these sex offender registry laws are retroactive. I mean, there's no time limit. I mean, let me put it this way here. Here's, once again, this is in a documentary film. As it stands now, okay, I'm going to use you as an example. I'm going to use Badbaby. Okay, somebody from your past could go to the police and say, when I was 6, 7 years old, Badbaby, when she was a young girl, molested me. And you're going to be arrested, you're going to be put in jail, and you're now guilty until innocent until proven innocent. You're innocent until proven guilty, or guilty until proven innocent. This can happen right now. Or somebody could walk up to you, some shady character, and this is happening all the time, and say, hey, my name is Rocco. I need $5,000. Now, if you don't give me $5,000, see that 10-year-old over there? He waves at you. He's going to go to the place and say you molested him. $5,000, or the cop says that you molested him. It's already happened. The mob has found a new way to blackmail people.
Yeah.
Plus, business partners, people, business disputes. Let me tell you how they're being settled now. All you have to do is, now somebody could do this to you, and I need to send you an email. You need to really worry about this, Badbaby, and everybody else. It's already happening. Somebody could send you an email, Mr. X. I'm Mr. X. I don't like Badbaby. I want to shut her down. This is how I'm going to do it. I could send you, Mr. X could send you an email with child porn on it, an attachment. You could say, hi, this is Mother. Happy Mother's Day. Badbaby, we just had a baby. You open it up, and boom, there it is. You're looking at child porn. Okay, you're automatically logged with the FBI. They actually have, FBI has a tracking for anybody that goes to child porn. Just by opening this email, you're now looking at child porn, and you will be arrested. Okay? I'm not trying to scare you, but we got to be real careful about opening your email.
Yeah, I'm real careful with my email anyways because
and opening
I get harassing emails and viruses sent to me, so I only open what I know.
Okay, so this is let me tell you this is happening to a lot of it's happening mostly to independent journalists who are trying to uncover dirt.
Sure.
It's happening to them. And it actually happened to a congressman running for Congress up in Minnesota. Okay,
well, that's why we say even if there is a congressman out there that people think that is honest, he'll end up not being able to help a targeted individual because they'll do a scenario like that to him. That's what they did to Jim Guest when Jim Guest stood up for targets. They went after his family and they raped his his secretary, and he backed off on trying to help people.
Anyway, child custody disputes. This is working. This is not a man, woman, or woman thing. You got women telling their kids, tell the judge that daddy molested, daddy touched you in the pee-pee part. And the kids, they don't know. They're at like 7, 8 years old. And they do it. And then when they get about 14, 15 years old, they say, oh, my God, what did I do?
Yeah.
So everybody, these sex offender laws are, it's like a two-edged sword. I mean, what they were originally intended to do, I'm all for, but now they're being used for blackmail, extortion, setting somebody up. Let's say.
No, I don't understand how they can force people to register to be homeless.
Okay, well, here's what's going on with this here. You ever heard that old term, follow the money? Follow the money?
Yeah.
What happens, the states and the federal government understand that the sex offender laws, or let's say Megan's Law, this is a federally mandated law on the states, meaning the federal government says, Congress says, you have to set up a sex offender registry in your state. Okay, you have to do this. It's a law. Okay, when a state puts somebody on the sex offender registry, well, the federal government pays up to $40,000 per year to have this person on a state registry. All right, so we have an incestuous relationship here. The states are making easy money, and, of course, the federal government gets someone in their clutches. I hate to use that word clutches, but, somebody public urination on a registry, clutches,
Yeah.
Or 18-year-old teenagers doing the wild thing in the back of
a
a
car.
car.
They have to pay? They have to pay for, like, a probation officer or something?
Well, the federal government pays the states to see every city, every town now has.
Oh, they get government grants.
They're getting government money and government
Okay,
grants.
gotcha.
So it's a money thing. It's an incentive.
Yeah, exactly what goes on with targeting too. See, I that's how I figured out. I quit going to people for help because I followed the money, and I found out the answer to why everybody participates and they get government grants.
So the same scenario happened in Nazi Germany. Okay, let's say we're in Nazi Germany. I could go to the Gestapo and say, "There's this woman. Let's say you're living in a nice house, you got a nice car, you got a little money." I could say, "Hey, Gestapo, this Fraulein Badbaby, I saw her worshiping the Jewish God," and they would just take you, throw you in a concentration camp, and I was allowed.
I don't like it that I worship Christ. They stomp my angels.
Well, okay, Jehovah's Witness. I mean, they put Jehovah's Witnesses were targeted, and Catholics. So it wasn't a Jewish thing. And then now the guys got your house or your car. Okay, vigilantes. This is another scary thing here. The sex offender registry has become a social media for vigilantes, serial killers, and some really strange characters. There's been over 500 sex offenders found murdered in their house. Okay, these were not child molesters. Remember what I said? And the documentation says this. The really dangerous guys that should be on this thing, and women, are the real small minority of this registry. Okay, it's stuff that they shouldn't be on it. And They're being found murdered in their homes. Serial killers. There was a case out in California where this guy had a fantasy of being Jason. You ever heard of Jason, the guy with the mask and the knife?
Yeah.
He was going around.
Yeah, they show his movie all over the...
Well, somebody wanted to be that and went out and bought the mask and the costume and the knife and went on the sex offender Megan's Law public profile and started finding victims. I mean, what better way than to go on a public? Okay, this guy's name is Joe Blow or Badbaby, and she lives at 12666 1984 Street. Okay, here we go. I'll just go here and just kill this person here. Yeah, there's been multi-thousand assaulted. So, and the same thing happened in Nazi Germany with the Jews. You basically became a victim. Once you became a registered person and you had to wear that yellow Star of David around you, you became a wide open target. So the parallels, this is what's scary. The parallels between the sex offender registry and what happened in Nazi Germany and what's happening here. They almost run side by side. Now, here it was called Megan's Law. In Nazi Germany, it was called the Reich Citizen Law. Same thing. You have two laws, and then you have two rules and sets. They just basically parallel each other. I really do a good job of the movie paralleling these.
It's the exact same program. They brought all them scientists over here with Project Paperclip, and it's just been going on in secret. But it's the egg's ready to crack, and they're going to release it out onto everybody.
Well, the problem is, I think it'll be too late before people snap and realize what's waking up here.
They just don't want to believe it, Anthony. They do not want to believe that this is going to happen, but it's already way gone past stopping it.
Well, there was one of my favorite philosophers, a German philosopher named Schopenhauer. He said, he made this statement in 1791. He said, the truth. First, it's ridiculed, the truth, ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. And then third, it becomes self-evident. So that's what's happening with people like me and you. We're trying to get the truth out there. Is ridiculed. Oh, this guy's on drugs, man. We're all going to be registered. We're all going to go on government registry and surveillance or using on sex offenders. Well, ask that somebody who's on a registry now on the terrorist registry, the financial fraud registry, the animal cruelty registry, the wife beater registry, the drug
homeless.
user.
How do you get on the homeless registry? I'm sure homeless people don't say, where do I sign up?
Well, you are in a homeless registry in a way. If you go to a shelter, if you go in a homeless shelter, you're registered as being a homeless person. If you're not in a shelter, then and you are homeless, then you're in violation of something called the Crown Land Act, signed by Nixon in the early 70s. Now here we go, another one of these wild conspiracy theories. This is my generation. I was there, and I can vouch for this. At the height of the Vietnam War, let's say 66 to about 69, 70, you had like a million draft-age men just disappear. They just, poof, vanished. Uncle Sam didn't know where they're at. Well, I know where they're at. They're living in hippie vans on beaches. They're living on boats. They're living out in the woods. They went to Canada. Back then, you didn't, the Social Security card still said not for identification purposes. Remember that? Remember when that was on the card?
Yeah.
So basically, they just disappeared. And of course, if they did rent a place or a house or whatever, there wasn't any government databases to log where they're at. So Nixon signed Crown Act, which basically states that it is illegal for any American to drop out of American society. That if you live in American society, you must be either under federal, state, city, county, or private jurisdiction. Now, let me break this down. Jurisdiction, okay, private jurisdiction, that means you're living in a house, you're renting a house, or you're in a motel, or a hotel, or you're staying with someone, or you're renting a motorhome and you're in an RV park, or you're living in a boat and you're in a marina. Meaning you're tagged. You're basically where you're laying your head every night is basically tagged to a zip code. Or when you're in a homeless shelter, well, you're in an address. You're tagged to a zip code. Whereas when you're homeless, or, okay, let's go back to federal. Okay, if you're a prisoner, well, you're tagged to a zip code in a prison. State, tag in a jail. I mean, you're under somebody's jurisdiction. They know where you're at by the zip code, and it's verified and documented. Whereas if you're homeless, well, they can't tag you to anything. They don't know where you're at. You know where you're at, where do anything. And if you try to live out in the woods, well, then here come the black helicopters. Here come the cops, driving around. Well, who are you? What are you doing here? And you really can't live. At one time, you could live on government land. You can't do that no more. You really can't live anywhere free anymore. You can't live in a vehicle on public streets. It is illegal to live outside of these zip code jurisdictions. You have to have a zip code tied to you so they know where you're at. So they don't like homeless people. They really don't. So if you've got a food stamp card, well, they'll track you with your food stamp card where you make your purchases. And maybe they'll pick you up on the surveillance cameras with this facial recognition, or they'll pick you up on all the surveillance stuff here. And your driver's license, you have to realize your driver's license, at one time when you got a driver's license picture of them, they actually took a picture and they put it with the ID, and then they laminated it. Now it's a computer generated. It's like a number. I mean, you could be watching the Detroit Tigers baseball game, and they could actually pick you out of a crowd with this surveillance facial recognition. So it's just getting crazy. So they want everybody's at. Now, when I say everybody at one time is going to be in a government registry, I get a lot of laughs. I'm sure I'm getting laughs now. Me in a government registry? Well, let me tell you, you're in a government registry now. You just don't really know it. You're not aware of it. It hadn't been explained to you the type of government registry you are in now. All Americans, including me, including you, including Barack Obama, everybody, here's the government registry they're in. Everyone is in a surveillance infrastructure. Surveillance infrastructure. And the name of this surveillance infrastructure is called the Social Surveillance Number, or Social Security Number. And, of course, your registry is your Social Security card. That is your registration card to be in this social surveillance infrastructure. Now, I've got nothing against Social Security. I'm going to be collecting Social Security proofs. It's got nothing to do with the Social Security program. Great thing, wonderful thing. I'm not happy how this number was used. And let me just reiterate something. I forgot to do something here. Anytime you're in these government registries, I forgot to say this. Sex offender, drug user, kidnapper, arsonist, terrorist, financial fraud, DW, any of these, you have to carry a registration card. A registration card. Now, if you're a registered person and you have a registration card, what does that mean? That means you have an owner. Somebody owns you. It's just like having a registration of a car. You're the registered owner of this person. Whereas when you're in a constitutionally protected zone, you're a citizen. You really don't have an owner. I mean, in a constitutionally protected zone, you get in your car and you just drive off. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to get permission. In a government registered zone, well, you have to get permission, and you have to be scanned and tracked and logged, all bim, bam, boom. All right, let's back down to Social Security as a registration card. That's your registration card for the surveillance infrastructure you're in, and the Social Security number is used to collect the data on you. Now, I'm sure everybody knows this. The Social Security card, number one, is a document. And if you try to deface it, or if you try to defraud it, put different numbers on it, or use different numbers, or basically try to get around, or try to circumvent, or get out of the Social Security surveillance infrastructure using your number, you can be arrested for money fraud. Okay, you can be arrested for ID theft, ID fraud. I mean, long story short, try to get out of this surveillance infrastructure you're in that's tracking you by your Social Security number. You're going to prison, or you're going to be fined, or you're going to be put in jail. Okay, this is the same thing with the new generation of registered Americans. They try to circumvent their government rules and regulations. They're arrested, put in jail, people's court, no bond, no jury, can't appeal it. Boom, sent off to prison for a violation of their. And same thing with the Social Security card. If you deface your Social Security card or try to put a fake name on it or use a number, well, you're basically taken to a people's court where you can't, get bond or get a jury trial. Or you just basically tried and convicted, either found guilty or sentence passed, and boom, you're out of here. Okay. At one time, the Social Security card had not for identification purposes on it. Are you aware of this a little bit, Bad Baby?
Yeah, yeah.
Did your card, we're kind of up in the
So
same age.
even if you get pulled over by the cops, they won't accept that as identification. Well, mainly because it doesn't have your picture.
Yeah, but they always ask for it. They say, oh, by the way, what's your Social Security number? Or they can pick it up. When you got your driver's license number, you don't realize it.
Yeah.
They've got your number on there. But a lot of times they'll say, oh, by the way, what's your Social Security number? Okay, they're just verifying that you have it here. So what I did here, remember I said I'm a knowledge predator? Okay, a knowledge predator. I spent about 2 years backtracking how the Social Security card went from not for identification purposes to now. It's not basically, it's your de facto ID. I mean, Bad Baby, technically, you could legally change your name to your Social Security number. One guy did that. You say, hi, my name is Mr. 666, 1984, OU812. That's my name. That's my name now. I don't have a name. I only have a number. And really, they couldn't do anything about it because that's what you are. You're that number now. That's your main identifier. And a lot of people are not aware that there have been people, mostly around the Montana area, Wyoming, Alaska, they're seeing what's going on with this number, and they've actually tried to give it back. Say, no, I don't want this number. I want to drop them. You can't. You cannot drop out of the system. You cannot say, I don't want this number. I want to give it back to you. Can't do it.
Well, I've heard of people trying to do it.
Trying to do it.
I heard that they lost everything that they owned.
The only way you can change your Social Security number, let's say that you're a female and you've got a psycho chasing you and he's tracking you down to your Social Security number, which is very easy to do. I mean, if I had your Social Security number, I could track you down the rest of your life. Okay? Let's say you're a female and you're being tracked by a psycho serial killer or husband, psycho X. Well, a judge will give you a new Social Security number on those grounds. But he won't take it away. He won't take it away from you. So no, I'm just going to give you a new number. Okay, or you can change your name. Also, if you do a name change, well, you can change your name, but you keep the same number. You can't change. Only a judge can authorize a name change. And anytime a baby is born now, as soon as even before it comes out of the womb, it's issued a number. The number's already waiting for it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of just being tattooed on it. And that's whereas when I was born, I'm going to say, when I was born, basically, let's just say 1970 back. From 1970 back, you really didn't get this number until you were about 18, 19, 20.
Or if you were a kid that went to work somewhere.
Went to work somewhere.
But, I know I got mine when I was 14, but I went to work at the A&W as a car op.
Okay. So, and also, you also have the option whether or not you wanted this number. I mean, you say, no, I don't want it. Oh, okay, you don't have to take it. All right. Well, let's do this here. I think we've got enough time here. I backtracked, and probably this is the only place in America where you're going to hear this, how the Social Security card or number went from not for identification purposes to being your de facto identification number. Here's how it started. Okay, I got a time machine. You want to hop in my time machine here? Hop in, Bad Baby. We're going to go back in time. Okay, put your seatbelt on. Okay, we're now in the year 1933. Okay, FDR is trying to get a Social Security for older people. It's the height of the Depression. You got all these elderly people. I mean, they're basically starving to death in the streets. They have no money. I mean, they're basically helpless. I mean, let's say you're 60, 70, 80 years old, no Social Security, no food stamps, no welfare. You're at the mercy of society. You're at the mercy of who will feed you or put a house over your roof. Now, it was very noble. FDR was very noble of wanting to put a Social Security Act that when somebody hits 62, well, they'd have like a government pension so they wouldn't be broke. They'd at least feed themselves. Okay, all for that. But the number almost didn't get passed because half of Congress said, no, this is 666. This number was going to be abused. One day, this will be a government ID number. And, the Bible says the day will come when you'll give up your name for a number, and then when you do that, you'll answer to the beast. Okay, so America was a lot more religious back then, and the country was really divided on this. There's got to be a better way to do this instead of having a number. Why don't they couldn't go with a name. So the Social Security Act almost didn't pass because Americans were afraid it could be turned into an ID number, government-issued ID number, and then FDR basically swore in a stack of Bibles, no, the Social Security number will never be an American government ID number. Did he lie? Anyway, so we're there. Now, what if, okay, now we're at Congress. You and I are at Congress. We're having the hearings. I want you to stand up and address Congress, Badbaby, and tell them what's going to happen with this Social Security number. See if they'll believe you. Will they believe you? Well, let me talk to them. They won't believe any of us. I mean, hi Congress, 1933 Congress. We're from the year 2015. We're here to warn you what's going to happen with this number. It is going to become a government surveillance infrastructure identification number. Half Congress is right. It is. You got to do it. Okay. Well, anyway, they wouldn't believe us. So it got passed. So the pivotal year is 1970. Okay, we're now in my time machine. We're at 1950. Okay, in the documentary, I use a guy, I call him Big Al. Here's Big Al. Have you ever seen that iconic picture of the sailor who's kissing the nurse? He just got back from the war, and he steps off the boat and grabs the first woman he can see and kisses her on a public street, and they take a picture of it. Okay, I call him Big Al.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, under the days of sex offender laws, if Big Al were to do that in America, get off the boat and grab some lady and kiss her, that's called sexual assault. That can get you on the sex offender registry. Okay. The second thing is Big Al was a sovereign citizen. Now, they've done a very good job of demonizing the word sovereign citizen. Okay. From 1950 back, all Americans were sovereign citizens. Right back to George Washington, trace it all the way back to Big Al in 1950. They were sovereign citizens, meaning they didn't have a number. If they did have a number, it was not for identification. They weren't on any kind of government database. Okay, there's no ID theft because you didn't have a number. You can't. The whole ID theft works off stealing somebody's number. You can't. So, I mean, there's probably millions of people out there in America called Badbaby. Okay, you know. All right. So, or Anthony Jones. Okay. So, Big Al is a sovereign citizen. His driver's license did not have his picture on it, and all it had was his number. His driver's license number was his receipt number for paying for it, and that he passed the test. Okay, his title, he didn't have a title. He had a bill of sale for a car. I remember bill of sales. Okay, a bill of sale, it's just basically a document saying that you own this car, and it's got a No Republic stamp on it. Okay, if somebody wants to put a lien on a car, you can't put a lien on a bill of sale. You got to take it to court. You got to tell your case to the judge, and the judge has got to order that the bill of sale be surrendered to whoever you owe money to. I mean, you have protection. I mean, bill of sale was basically your invasion of privacy, and it just couldn't be pulled. Now, with the title, I mean, somebody can see that, well, I mean, Badbaby's, I mean, she's making too many drives to an Indian casino here. We need to suspend her tags and her title. We're not happy with this. I mean, just the click of a mouse, a lien can be put on your title, your registration, just click of a mouse. Okay. With the bill of sale, you didn't have that. Okay. And being his Social Security card said not for identification, he could basically choose and pick who got this number. And if somebody asked for his number, he could punch him out. What do you want my number for? Well, this is none of your business. So he is a sovereign citizen. His life is his secret. Okay, he lives a very private life. I mean, you know, who he owes money to is his business. Who he sees is his business. The phones were tapped. Who he talked to is his business. The IRS wasn't monitoring the bank accounts. You didn't even have to have a Social Security number to open a bank account back then. I remember in 1969, I opened a bank account. Didn't need a Social Security number, just my ID. Oh, okay, Mr. Jones, here's your new bank account. Oh, well, we don't need a Social Security. No, we don't need that. Okay, so he could walk around with a bag with $50,000 cash in it, and he was not he couldn't be accused of money laundering. Okay, so he was a sovereign citizen. Well, here's how this changed. 1950, some dirtbag politician named Senator McCarthy popped up with communists everywhere. Just ring a bell with you? The communist witch scare of the early 1950s? Communists everywhere. They're in the government. They're everywhere. They're in our schools. They're teaching, communists. So America was scared shitless. Hope I can say that word on your show. Was scared to death over this communist. They were basically fearful. Communists everywhere. So the government started something called the Communist Registration, meaning if you were a convicted communist or a known communist, you had to go to the government and register as a communist. Register as a communist. So the first government registry started in America in the early 50s, registering the communist. 2 years later, 1953, IBM comes up with a computer called UNIVAC. This is the first digital computer where you can actually enter data in and see data on a screen and search it. It's kind of like what we have today, but it's a lot more primitive, and the computer was about the size of a house. So a guy with a screen with a keyboard in front of a computer the size of the house could basically do what you're doing now with your laptop or your desktop. Okay, so then they started entering all the information on the communist. Are you ready for this? Communist National Investigation Center. Communist NICI. Communist National Investigation Center. All the information was entered on a government computer. Well, guess what? If you're going to enter information on people on computer databases and create files, you can't use their name. What do you have to use? You have to use their social security number. So the first first search engine was a people search engine. The first people entered on a search engine in America were communists. Everything about them, their information, everything, folks, was put on a file, and it was listed under their social security number. So if you want to know about this guy, you type in 666, 1984, OU812, and boom, this guy popped up. Well, guess what? It started expanding. If you became anti-government or any kind of suspicion that you were not a loyal American, you got put in this computer system and you had to register. And the registry started expanding. It started expanding. And it started, you're against fluoride. There was a big outcry against fluoride in the mid-50s, putting fluoride in the water. Well, they were called communists. Okay, anything going against the government back then, you're a communist. You put it on the registration, a communist registration put on this computer, and database backtracked. Okay, 1960s. Okay, there was a guy and a newsman named Edward Murrow. Ring a bell? The newscaster Edward R. Murrow, one of the last great American investigative journalists. He exposed the whole McCarthy communist witch scare as a hoax. It wasn't real. All it was a conspiracy to get this guy elected, money flowing through his donations to protect you from the communists, and then start this communist database thing. So the government declared, they basically said there is no more communist registry, meaning if you're a registered communist, no more. We're just tear your registration card. Sorry you can't take a joke. There's no more communist registry. But guess what? And they had to delete all the names. Everybody. There's a guy, something called the Hollywood Seven. I mean, there were a lot of lives ruined over this. I Love Lucy. She was on this thing. She was called a communist. I mean, it was a real witch hunt. Kind of like what we got going with sex offender registry now. Everybody is subject to be a sex offender. Okay? Same thing. Anyway, so all the information is erased from the National Communist Investigation Center computer database, all erased, and these guys are all looking at each other. What do we do now? Well, like any good government agency, I mean, they're not going to close down and shut down. We need to find new communists. Okay, the new communists, early 60s, the civil rights activists, Martin Luther King, the woman that refused to sit on the back of the bus. They were all declared communists, and it was communist inspired. So if you're involved in the civil rights movement from 1960 to about early 60s, you went on this National Communist Investigation Center. You logged on your Social Security number, and of course you didn't know about it. It wasn't made public. Up jumps the Vietnam War. I mean, I was an anti-Vietnam War protester. I'm sure I got on this stupid computer because what are we doing? We're protesting, fighting against a communist government. So we're communist sympathizers. Seeing where we're going with this? Okay, once the Vietnam War is over, once the civil rights over, all the lines, and there's no more civil rights, there's no more street. Well, what are they going to do? What's this lonely little big computer with all these names, now they've all been erased, what's it going to do? Well, it had to find new blood. It had to find new people in the database to keep itself in existence. So the National Criminal Investigation Center now morphs into, give me a drum roll, somebody, NCIC, National Criminal Investigation Center. It went from National Communist Investigation Center, same government agency, same computer, same guys, same everything, now a new name, a new game. Now they're going after criminals. So they said, what we're going to do, folks, they actually held a public meeting. I've got this in the documentary film. A big ceremony. The government has now announced that they're going to figure out how to protect Americans from criminals. We have a new technology called high-tech computers going to protect Americans from the dangerous criminals. There's crime spree going on here. So from now on, if you're a dangerous criminal, or if you're a felon, or a lifetime criminal, or a career criminal, blah, 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 we're going to put you in this computer on your Social Security name, of course. So we can log you, we know where you're at, we can database you, we can find you, we can track you. Now let's get back in the time machine here. Okay, Bad Baby, okay, me and you are going to walk up to this government podium where they're showcasing this new computer to fight crime with a computer. Let's get out and try to tell all these people in the audience whose Social Security cards have on it, not for identification purposes. I'll go first. Folks, you got to shut this thing down, because what's going to happen is this Social Security card is not for identification purpose in your card, and it's going to disappear, and it's going to be your official identification number within 30, 40 years. You've got to shut this down. Everybody's going to be on this computer. Of course, nobody believe me. I'd be a crackpot, and they'd probably throw a net over me, or you trying to warn people what this thing is going to morph into. So, same story as with the Sex Offender Registry. Starts off with the really hardened, bad criminals, serial killers. I mean, how can you argue with that? Then pretty soon, jaywalking, tickets, barroom brawl. I mean, stupid stuff. Anything where you had an altercation with the law, even if it was minor, stupid, or dropped, you're at a payphone. The payphone doesn't give your money back. You take a rock, a brick, start banging on the payphone. Cops show up, they arrest you for assaulting a payphone. I mean, just all kind of crazy, stupid stuff you can get arrested for. You now went in this. You now got in this computer for criminals. Even parking tickets. Parking tickets eventually got into it. Now, what are they going to do next? We got all the criminals. Now, what are they going to do now? They need more people in this thing here. So then they went up. Then the journalists started getting put in. Write bad stories about the powers that be. You're going in there. Any kind of protester, you name it. Anything that was counterculture, all the counterculture went in National Criminal Investigation Center, because you're not a socially and politically correct American.
So the Tea Party, people like that.
Yeah,
they had a big demonstration in Lower Michigan, Brighton, Michigan. They went to this big park, and they were flying over with the news film, and there was over 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And they said that they could not enter the park until they signed their name on a list.
They want to know who they were.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, oh, my God, you people, okay, where do I sign? Now I can go in the park. They wanted to know who was there and track them. And now they've gone on a list.
Now they're going to put you in there. All right, we'll just keep rolling. 1974, President Nixon, Tricky Dick, signs a law that all kids in kindergarten have to have a Social Security card. I mean, if you're 4 or 5 years old, going to kindergarten, you have to go to the Social Security Department and get a Social Security card. Well, guess what? Guess what was handed to the 5-year-old kid? It didn't say not for identification purposes. It said a number has been established for Bad Baby. Okay. Now you're locked into it. Now you don't have the option of whether or not you want to take it or not take it. Now you now have no option. You're now locked into this thing. You're now in a social surveillance infrastructure, and the Social Security number is now a social surveillance number. The reason they did that, understand, these were the kids of the baby boomers. These are the and of course the grandkids of the greatest generation, the ones that fought World War II. The baby boomers are the ones who protested out in the streets. Okay, they didn't go after them. They didn't touch them, because if they'd have pulled out on the baby boomers and the greatest generation, there'd have been an armed revolt. Okay, so they slipped it in with the kindergarten kids. Okay, 10 years later, anybody in elementary and high school now has to have a Social Security card. I mean, you cannot walk into a public school unless you have a Social Security card. You've got to go down and register for one. And they basically just, I call the generational creep function. What the system will be, or the powers will be, if they want to put a rule or restriction or take away your liberties from the population, they do it in slow motion. They either start with the bad guys and expand it. Understand gun control starts off with criminals. Now everybody's doing gun control. You name some type of any type of law or restriction or invasion of privacy or taking away of civil liberties, you can backtrack it to the bad guys, and then it slowly morphs into the general population. Okay, so now we're at 1980s. Everybody in school has got to have a Social Security number. Well, then everybody in college has got to have a Social Security number. Okay, 1990, everyone is now it's called mandated to have a Social Security card. Mandated, meaning that there were still a lot of boomers in the greatest generation still walking around that did not have this card. They said, no, I'm not going to take it. Now they're forced to take it, and they're a minority. Understand, they're the minority now. And if you tried to talk to somebody, you know, a younger generation back then, what do you mean you don't want to take Social Security card? Are you weird? What is this? I don't know what you're talking about. You know. So they became, that's what happens when you become a minority, a minority holder of civil rights, civil liberties, constitutional rights, this kind of stuff, and you become a minority in a predominantly constitutional democratic society that's had their rights taken away. See what's going on here? See, you're
yeah.
So they had to go down and get a card. I personally know. I was a preacher. He gave a hell of a speech on 666. He refused to take it. They arrested him. Actually arrested him. Anyway, so 1990, everybody, guess what? And once you got this Social Security card, guess where all this information is going? Where is it all going? It's all now being funneled into NCIC, National Criminal Investigation Center. We started out with National Communist Investigation Center. And by 2000, they passed something called Compliance 2000. I don't know if this rings a bell. Google it. Compliance 2000. We're 15 years, almost 16 years past it. The federal government mandated that all documents and all information must be placed on a database. Understand, at one time in this country, most information files about you, I'll just use you, Badbaby, as an example. At one time, everything about you was on a file. You know, birth certificates, death certificates, you know, high school records. I mean, it was sitting in a dusty file somewhere. And if somebody wanted to see this information, they had to go to the location, wherever it was at, or your birth certificate, they had to go to this location and say, hi, I'm here to see Badbaby's birth certificate or school records or this record or that record, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I see a big file back there. Just here's the dust. Wipe the dust off and pull it back. You'd have to put all the files back. Well, they said no more of this. So all this information was now put on a database. All on database now. Compliance 2000. No more files. Well, guess what happens now? Early 2000. It's not documented. You're really. Oh, I've got it in the documentary film. It's not. It's hard to find this document. You got to really, really dig. But the National Criminal Investigation Center, early 2000s, it morphed into the National Civilian Investigation Center. You see some kind of parallel here? Starts off National Criminal, and you see how slowly morph. So anytime you get a background check, let's say you apply for a job, you want to do a background check or anything. I'm sure when you applied for this radio show, you probably had to give us a Social Security number.
Oh, I didn't apply for this, dear. I do this myself.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you have to pay for this, but if you had to pay for it, if you had to use a credit card or anything, some type of identifier. A lot of places won't take cash now. I have a hard time getting anybody to take cash. They all want a credit card now, so they can track you. So when they do a background check, when they do a credit check, all these checks on you, it's now basically the baby computer. It was in the 1933 baby's computer called UNIVAC. It's now Adolf. It's now you know. So this is what happened. So basically, by Americans not protesting in the early 50s, saying no, the Constitution says you cannot put somebody on a government registry. A government registry is illegal under the Constitution. Illegal. The founding fathers, they knew what was coming. Basically, when an American is in a government registered citizen, you're in a parallel with a peasant in England during the 1700s. I mean, you're subject to the crown. You're subject to the crown. Okay? I mean, you're helpless. There's no constitutional rights. The king and royalty can do anything they want with you. Oh, I don't like you. I want you to jump off this bridge. Or give me all your money. Or, hey, I think, yeah, your daughter's cool. I'm going to spend the night with your daughter. I'm going to make sure she knows what's you know. they're helpless. That's why they came up with the Constitution, to prevent crown abuse. It was called crown abuse. Okay. So what I've tried to show through documentation is that once you let the genie out of a bottle, once you open a Pandora's box in a I'm having a hard time with this word, constitutional, democratic, national country, and you allow one citizen, all it takes is one citizen to have their constitutional rights violated and taken away, then it's like a fire, it's like a cancer. It spreads. It spreads. The founding fathers have said that if the Constitution was ever breached, and that's what the sex offenders registry did, it breached the Constitution, that within 100 years it'd be the end of America as we know it. And the documentation I'm presenting in the documentary film, and as I'm talking to you now, shows us that it's on a time. It now has a timeline. And I can go back in history. I can look at Nazi Germany with how their registry started out, with the Reich citizenship started out with the Jewish bankers, and then pretty soon half of Germany's on a registry. Okay, and same thing's happening here. Like I say, 800,000 sex offenders on a registry. Now, I've tried to get the numbers of the information on all these people that are on these other government registries. We can't get it. That's a locked secret. That is a lock. They will not give that information out. So I'm going to have to say that if you took all the Americans at present that are on a government registry, if you included them all, we're going to have the size of a mid-sized state. Now, what is wrong with this picture? We have the population of a mid-sized state where they have to get permission to work, where they can go, where they can live, where they can travel, what they can do. I mean, it's spreading. Start off with one person in 1994. Now it's at a mid-state level, and the numbers, the projection, the trajectory shows that it's going to spread. It's going to be the same thing what happened with the Social Security number. Starts off with the communist, scaring people, the bad guys, and then it morphs and morphs and morphs and morphs and morphs, expands. Benjamin Franklin said it so well. He said that anytime you allow those to take away the liberties and freedoms of one group, it's just a matter of time before this group comes back and takes your freedom and liberties. And that's what we've allowed to do with the passage of the sex offender law. I mean, I'm not defending sex offenders. Let me tell you, as far as I'm concerned, get a rope. But they didn't do that. They didn't. They started this registry. We allowed the passage of a Pandora's box to open. And me, myself, representing I'm making plans for a dual citizenship with Canada. Okay, Canada still allows a dual citizenship. I don't know how long that's going to last. Because right now, as we speak, there's already bills in Congress to deny registered citizens, government-registered citizens, access to a passport. Meaning, once you become a government-registered citizen, it's now a coin flip whether or not you'll be able to get a passport. So, I mean, if I should become a government-registered citizen for some insane, crazy way, well, then I won't be able to leave the country. This is what happened in Nazi Germany. Once you got on a government registry, you became a government-registered citizen, you're denied a passport. You couldn't leave. I mean, you're denied exit visa. You had to slip out of the country. So, it's not looking good.
Another form of control, that's all it is.
Well, that's all it is, control. I had one guy ask me on another radio show, he says, what's behind all this? And I said, well, he was wanting me to point a finger at somebody. He says, I'm very sorry, I can't point a finger at anybody over this. First of all, I'm a libertarian. We need government, and I don't believe in anarchy. You have to have some type of government. But libertarians believe in limited government. The country was, the way George Washington set our government up was to protect the country, mint the money, and negotiate treaties. That was it. Now you got the government doing anything. I mean, you can go out here. When I came back to Michigan, the first thing I missed was the smell of burning leaves. I missed that burning leaves. Well, if you try to do that now, ticket, fine, arrested for burning leaves in Michigan. Now, remember the burning leaves?
We burn leaves still.
Yeah, but in where I'm at, the city I'm at, it's a ticket. It's a fine. Somebody has to call.
Well, you can't just burn them. You have to get a burning permit.
Yeah, but in the old days, you could break them up
on
the
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
Yeah, you just go out and rake your leaves and put them up against the curb and burn them.
And we got a notice here from the EPA that, you know, it's come to their attention. They want to know if we have EPA approved the lawnmowers and weed eaters. I mean, you know, basically the government, these agencies are now in the nose of the American public.
EPA,
yes. EPA, I mean, this is, you know, this started off, Nixon signed it, mid-'70s. They're only supposed to regulate and go after these big major corporations that were polluting. Now, they're liable to come at your house if your septic tank is leaking or not running right.
They've already done that. I already had to replace it.
See, the history, the track record of all government registries, and I'm not an anti-government nut. I really am not. I've got an aunt that works for the
government. And, you know, when I had to replace my septic, this house is over 100 years old, and it was one of the first septics that was ever put in. You know,
here comes code enforcement.
Right, yeah. Well, when I went to replace it, the guy thought I was trying to do something illegal because I just wanted to know where my septic was, and I called down to the county offices, and he told me, he said, if I catch you with a bulldozer out there or something, I'll red tag your house, I'll slap a fine. I said, wait a minute, I'm just trying to fix it. Then he realized, you know, that he was wrong when he came out here, and I had a company putting one in. He said to me, he said, well, you know, these old farmhouses that have outdated septics, we would have got to you eventually. You're on a list.
So that's what happened. If you backtrack any government agency, they all start out small with a noble cause, okay, and then it's not long before they expand. Understand the FBI starts off as 10 policemen just basically walking around the White House just trying to keep an eye on what's going on. Now they're everywhere. What happened with the sex offender registry? It became an agency called SORNA. That's what it is. It's the government agency called SORNA. That's the name of this government agency that controls this. And what they saw is that they couldn't expand this registry with dangerous predatory child molesters. I mean, they're just a small, minute. I mean, they're the same statistically as a serial killer. I mean, how do you expand a government agency when the people you have jurisdiction and control over are in this? I
have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Is Bill Clinton on that list?
Well, he should be on this. Technically, he could be on the sex offender registry list. If they'd have had it, he could have been on it. I'm serious.
Yeah, but you said they were going back in time and getting people that committed crimes back in the 50s. So
let me tell you, they're real selective.
Yeah,
Understand
I know.
they're real selective.
They would never put him on any list. Give me a break.
Well, you know, John Walsh, you know, the guy on America's Most Wanted. Well, he passed a law. He got a law called the Adam Walsh Act, which is part of the sex offender. This is why I got all these teenagers on the sex offender registry. See, before the Adam Walsh Act, okay, well, if you're a teenager, you got caught doing the wild thing with an underage girl, well, it's called statutory rape. You went in front of a judge. Judge said, did he molest you? No. Did you molest her? No. We're going to get married. Get out of here. Now, automatic sex offender registry. Well, John Walsh, well, first of all, his son, Adam Walsh, was not killed by a sexual predator. He was killed by a serial killer because he was in a store and his mother let him wander away. And then you can go on YouTube, and he has like a little documentary where he says, you know what, I was in a bar. I met my future wife in a bar, and she was using fake ID. So he met his future wife in a bar underage. Did they do the wild thing? Well, I mean, you know, do the math. So if they would have his act back when he was 21, he could have been on his own sex offender registry list. Okay, the whole thing, the whole sex offender registry, everything, the laws, it's all corrupt and it's just oxymoronic. Megan, okay, it's called Megan's Law. Let me tell you how Megan's Law came to be. Once again, this is documented. 1996, okay, Megan Kanka, living in New Jersey. She lets her 10-year-old daughter go out in the neighborhood, sell Girl Scout cookies door to door. She's knocking on doors in the neighborhood, door to door, selling Girl Scout cookies. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't. Would you let your 10-year-old girl go out in the city and start knocking on doors selling Girl Scout cookies?
No.
She knocked on the wrong door. A psycho answered, you know, raped and murdered her. And then, of course, everybody's in outrage. Let me tell you why they were in outrage. Not so much that she got killed, but they were outraged at her mother, Megan Kanka, for letting this happen. And they were going to file a child endangerment act against her. And she came up with this magical statement. It was the government's fault The reason this happened was the government's fault, not my fault. There should have been some kind of register, some kind of way to let me know that a dangerous psycho lived in my neighborhood. So once she said that, well, then everybody quit thinking about filing child endangerment charge against her. And then, according to the politicians, man, this is a bandwagon. Save the children. Yeah, okay, yeah. Vote for me, and I'll do Megan's Act, and we'll save the children here. And, Jessica's Law. Okay, have you ever heard of Jessica's Law?
Yeah.
These are so sad. I mean, so sad. But the father went out here and passed Jessica's Law. Okay, what about him? He's caught with underage girls, and he's been caught on child porno websites, and his son had sex with an underage girl. So it's kind of do as I say, but how does this go? Say as I do, but not as I do, or do as I do, or not as I say. So they're selective. Elvis Presley could have been a secretary. He married a 14-year-old girl. Jim Morrison of the Doors was a sex offender. Of course, they didn't make this public, and a governor had to exonerate him because he was Mr. Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll, masturbating on stage, doing the wild thing with underage girls. All the founding fathers could have been sex offenders. Understand, at one time in this country, revolutionary days, the age of consent was 14. Most of the founding fathers married underage girls. And this is really going to be unpopular. There's an atheist movement. Okay, I'm not saying this. I'm just repeating an atheist movement that is trying to get this going. This might make the news. It might make not. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but they're trying to get God as a sex offender because he got an underage girl pregnant 2,000 years ago named Virgin Mary.
Oh God.
Okay, so the way it just got out of control, and then they're trying to pass a thing called International Megan's Law. Well, the problem with this is the age of consent in Africa and Asian countries is 13. Age of consent in South America, 13. Mexico, 16. Europe, Western Europe, 16. Former communist countries, 14. Middle East countries, there is no age of consent. You can marry a 6-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And, hey, congratulations.
I was just going to say, what about all the pictures of them over there with the child bride that 11 years old?
I mean, how can you prosecute somebody when age of consent? In America, the reason we have such crazy sex laws is America is still held hostage to our puritanical past. I mean, basically, what has happened is we've allowed the Puritans, the good folks that brought you, burning witches and whipping people and all this kind of crazy stuff for not being religious enough or praying enough. We basically brought them back from the grave, and we've got them writing these laws. So that's why I say it's just a matter of time before a man could be charged with possession of rapist tools and a woman for intent to distribute porno to minors.
So we all need to stay at home and be hobbits.
Well, coddled here. But I tell you, this register, I worry. I've got kids, I've got grandkids, and I worry about them being on
their life being ruined because they go out after graduation and decide to moon the gas station.
So if I did anything, can you see where the sex offender registry, where it's headed?
Yeah, I can see. Well,
you can run it. It's running.
I can see exactly how
it's running parallel.
Violation.
How the Social Security number went from not for identification purposes to now being a de facto number, and you're in a surveillance infrastructure. I mean, start off in 1953 with a dirtbag, low-life Senator McCarthy, Prime Minister everywhere. See how it works on slow motion. The same slow motion process that went from Big Al being a sovereign citizen to now technically be on the sex offender registry. Now everything about him is on computer-based. He's no longer a sovereign citizen. And another thing that's going to happen, and this is coming, give it about 5 years, pretty soon you'll be able to go to your internet, and you're going to be able to know about everybody in the street. Let me see, how many, well, we know how many sex offenders are on here, how many bad check writers, or how many arsonists, or how many terrorists, or how many DWI writers. I mean, it's going to become paranoid. How many drug users, how many drug dealers? Oh my God, there's a sex offender living across the street, and there's one guy on the register across the street, DWI, and there's a guy down the street for bad checks, and there's a guy next to me, he's on his registry for arsonists, and this guy over here, and this is coming.
Mega Gladys Kravitz.
Yeah, you're gonna,
Hey, Anthony, we're coming up on the end of the show, so why don't you tell everybody where they can go and look at your documentary, and if they want to contact you or look at your webpage.
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to salute you, Badbaby. What I have is I have the #1 banned and censored documentary film in America. It's certified. Okay, I cannot advertise this film in mainstream media or even alternative movies, alternative media. Okay, I cannot advertise. I mean, what's wrong with this picture? I cannot advertise, the film link in newspapers and magazines. They will not accept my advertisement money to advertise it. Okay, so it's basically banned. It's a banned and censored movie. I've got it documented on the site. Anyway, it's www. Okay, evil law, like evil as in law, and I use something called .tk, not .com, .tk. Thomas Kangaroo. The reason I went with this .tk is understand when you register a .com number, well, you got to use your credit card. You got to have all this personal information about yourself, and it's stored on a government data registration base. And anybody can do a who is, and they can pull out all this information about who made this film. And the next thing I know, I've got strange people standing looking at my house on my lawn. There's people in black cars wearing sunglasses with dark tinted glass looking at me. So with a .tk, you can be anonymous, meaning nobody can know who registered this DA. It's this domain, this dot name. It's basically a small island in the Pacific, and the only way anybody could ever go in there and find out who this domain name belongs to or who owns this, you'd have to take an army, you'd have to invade this island, you'd have to go in at force, hold guns to everybody to get the information, and they've got it on files instead of computer databases, so it can't be hacked. So .tk, you like your privacy, you like being anonymous, you like your business being your business, and you like being in a situation where you determine how much information you want to give out online, .tk, and then I use a thing called Start Mail. This is a mail out of the Netherlands. Okay, they can't have the United States because it violates all the government privacy codes. Anyway, evillaw.tk, 2.5 hours. I've got a $10,000 reward to anybody that can disprove any of that information on her. So if anybody's feeling lucky, hey, for $1, try your luck. Just a couple bucks to download it. I mean, you might get lucky. Okay.
All right, well, Anthony. Well, it was very enlightening. Thank you so much for your work, your time, and your information. And you have a blessed night.
Always do. Why should I stop now? But I'm worried about God being a sex offender now. He did get this young girl pregnant 2,000 years ago.
I don't think we have to worry about that.
Well, I mean, this is something. Okay. 1984 is here, and 666.
Yes, it is. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show.